Good thing God bless you know. Because here you wanna, you see the fire burn. A word without works. Fire burn up the wood, yeah man shirt. Fire burn, and I better learn. And everything out there you feel burn. Fire burn, a word without works. Fire burn up the wood, yeah man shirt. Fire burn, and I better learn. And everything out there you feel burn. Imagine you're just up in your latest wear. Put on your Versace cause a type and stay weird. You come out to hear a Rasta man say, you feel like you want to disappear. Imagine big dancer keep down in the scare. Woman in a mosquito and the tallest here. She come out to hear a Rasta man say,
all right, that's my man Beanie Man, 1990s. You know how I do with the 90s rock. Best music made back in the 90s. All right, so real quick, I want to talk about possibilities. I want to talk about possibilities and how all things are possible according to Scripture. All things are possible. With God, all things are possible. So I want to talk about possibilities, and I want us to call upon the aid of science to back up the Scripture, to show you that science backs up Scripture. All things are possible to him that believes, right? Now, scientifically, we if we've researched and studied long enough, we understand that the universe exists as a field of endless and infinite probabilities. I'll say that again. The universe exists as a field of endless and infinite probabilities. Now, what is a probability? Probability is defined as the measure of a likelihood of an event occurring. So it's the measurement of the occurrence of an event. That measurement is expressed in terms of ratios, and it's called probability theory. So when you look at probability theory is the confirmation, validation, and it's the confirmation, it's the validation of all things are possible to him that believe, or with God, all things are possible. Now, I just explained probabilities. Now let's look at the word possible. The word possible has its etymology, or its etymological. I always have a tongue twister saying that word. It has its etymological roots in Latin, and the Latin, it's a combination, a compound of two words called posse, which we all are familiar with the word posse, and ible, I-B-L-E. I actually wrote it down here, I-B-L-E. I-B-L-E is a variation of the word able. And we all know the word able means being capable of doing something, having the potency, the power, the force, the wherewithal. Able. He is able to do this. He is able to do that. And the word posse has its root in Latin as well, and it has a term, posse comitatus. Posse comitatus. Posse comitatus. Yes, posse comitatus is a Latin term, and it means a body of armed forces that a sheriff can call upon to make an arrest, to issue a right, or to enforce any kind of law. So if you're a lawman, if you're a sheriff, it is your backup. This is where we get the word posse. Okay, you know, if you say you have your posse, it means your boys. The slang term is your boys, your crew. Well, its Latin root meaning is it's to be able to call up. It's a sheriff that is able to call up on his force, his enforcers, to enforce law or to make arrests. And it's posse comitatus, which is Latin, and this is where the word posse we get. So the word posse that we use in English today, and so they formed the word possible with posse and able. So posse, which is a body or a force or a group of entities that you can call upon to enact or to do something, right? And able is a variation of able, which means capable, having the wherewithal. So possible lets you know that you have posse, which is a group, and able, which is capable. So when you have the word possible, possible, when you say it is possible, when you take on the vibration, because every word carries a vibrational frequency. When you take on the vibration of all things are possible, when you take on that energy of all things are possible, and understand the etymology of the word possible and what the word possible connotates, what it has embedded in its definition, in its mysticism. Because now we're going to the mystiques of the word possible. Within its mysticism, you're actually saying to yourself, you're calling upon the forces of God, the forces of the universe. Again, all things exist as a state. All things exist. The universe exists as a field of endless probabilities. So therefore, all the things that you need are already in existence in actuality, which is objective existence. So when you start to take on the ideology of all things are possible, and the word posse comitatus, which is Latin, which means now you're calling upon all the bodies of the invisible realm. You're not calling upon your posse like we have transliterated the word to mean today in our English, but you're calling upon your posse according to the science, right? Because we're actually we're understanding this from a scientific, we're couching it from its scientific and empirical definitions. So scientifically, or we can go theologically, right? Because theologically, what you're calling upon is not physical men, as in your posse comitatus, as it means in Latin, but what you're actually doing is calling upon posse in sense of the theological explanation or the theological definition, which is the forces of God. And the forces of God, science explains it as field of probabilities. And we can go even further. The field of probabilities that science calls it can be broken down further to frequencies. Frequencies can be broken down further to matter. Matter can be broken down further to protons, electrons, neutrons. We could keep going, breaking this thing down. So be that as that may be, when we understand and take on the mindset of possibility, that all things are possible, and you understand the etymological definition of possible, the compounded etymological explanation of possible. Posse, able, able, capable, having the wherewithal, the power, the force, the potency, having the potency and the potentiality and the power to enact, force, and or change one's present or future conditions. You can determine your future conditions because you understand the etymological definition, scientific explanation of the word possible. So when you break down the words and gets to its root meaning and extract from its root meaning not only its secular definition and explanation, but when you can extract and extricate it's metaphysical. When you can go into the metaphysics and you can pull from the metaphysical, meaning beyond that which is physical, when you can pull its definition, you're now pulling its power. You're pulling its potency. You're pulling its force. And you're enacting that. You're putting that into use now. This is why the scripture says all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. So when you understand the power, so this is God right here. This is God. The power is God. The power of what's in the phrase, the clause, however you want to grammatically couch it, when you understand the power that is within the clause, not the clause itself, but the power behind the behind, what's behind the behind, that power is God. That God lies within, he's embedded within the word. Because remember, the scripture says, in the beginning was the word, right? And the word was God, and the word was with God, and the word became God. So in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and God, right? So you got to understand that within the word is God. Where is God? He's embedded in his words. Because it says, not one word shall pass. Heaven and earth shall pass. Not one word going to fail. In Isaiah, he says, my words will not return void to me. They will not return void. So God is embedded within the word. So what is important for us to understand is that these words that we are using, that we wield, that we get, look, the word grammar comes from the Latin grimoire or grammari, however you want to pronounce it. But in the word grimoire means to work magic. to cast spells and incantations, enchantment. Sounds a little spooky, don't it? But we don't want to go into spooky mysticism and mystiques. What I want to explain to you, though, is that it's important that you pull out, you extract, you tease out the hidden meanings behind the words that we're reading, right? The words that we are reading and the words that we're writing. It's important that we understand their origins, their etymological definitions and explanations, so we can get the true potency of the message or the meaning behind the message, so that we can enact, enforce, and effect change immediately in our lives. So all things are possible with God, and God is within the possibility. He's within the message. He's within the words. It is up to us to extract, that's why Jesus says they have eyes and they see not. They have ears and they hear not. You understand? Because Jesus is saying that because he's not talking about the five senses. He's not talking about the physical eyes, the physical ears. He's talking about the eyes of the inner man, the eyes of your consciousness, or lack thereof. Your ears of your inner man, your ears of your consciousness, or lack thereof. So let's learn to look behind the veil. Let's dig a little deeper. Let's go out. Let's wade a little deeper out in the water. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't wade out ankle high. Wade out knee high, waist high, neck high. Go until you drown. Just go out there until you drown. Whatever. Just die. Drown. It is what it is. Who cares? You understand? Wade out deep into the oceans of knowledge. You'll never die. You'll never drown. Because you'll be like Peter. You'll walk on water. But whatever. You know what I'm saying? Study to show thyself approved, a workman that needed not be ashamed. That's what the scripture says. So study. Right? And yeah, that's it. Till next time, y'all know what I'm gonna be doing. Playing my 90s music. Peace.
Fire burn up the whole of your mansion. Fire burn on the metal land, on everything out there you feel burn. Fire burn, a word without work. Fire burn up the whole of your mansion. Fire burn on the metal land, on everything out there you feel burn. You want get a Rasta man vex in him turban and him robe and him don't got no